The greatest nation on earth, America. We have the most amazing people that put their faith and this nation above all. The American Frontline Podcast has special guests such as our military, first responders, and local elected officials to speak about how they continue to support the nation we all love and live in. Welcome to the American Frontline Podcast with TJ Falah, proudly sponsored by FireNews.com. Welcome to episode 8 of the American Frontline Podcast. I'm your host, TJ Falah, proudly sponsored by Fire News and Ladder Suite. So today I have two awesome guests on the show. My guests today are Bill Theis and Ralph Raymond, two men that wear multiple hats in the volunteer fire service. From commissioners in their respective fire districts to leadership roles in a bi-county organization, as well as an officer position at the New York State level. Today, we're going to explore the importance of being proactive and making sure that the volunteer and EMS service can continue to serve their communities as it has for over 200 years here, specifically in Nassau and Suffolk counties. With an increase in call volumes for departments and the changing dynamic of available time caused by economics, finding time to volunteer is becoming much harder for our citizens. As a result, leaders in the fire and EMS service are looking to develop programs that assist volunteers in freeing up time without putting additional fiscal strain on their families. So, gentlemen, welcome. So glad to have you on the show.
Great. Thanks, TJ, for having us.
Of course. So, Bill, my first question is going to start with you today. So I want to talk to you guys. Could you explain your position in the Nassau and Suffolk Fire District's Legislative Committee?
Right. So I've been with the Nassau-Suffolk Fire District's Legislative Committee for 8 years. I've rose to the ranks of chairman, and we do legislation that we bring up to Albany to try and help the districts and the fire departments and also the ambulance companies.
Great. That's awesome. So I just want to say, as a volunteer myself, something that I've been doing since I was such a young kid. This is of great importance. I think that we have to save volunteerism in this state because I see a lot of people leaving because it doesn't fit their schedules anymore, or it doesn't help with the financial strain that they're experiencing from our economy at the moment. So today, I think this is going to be a great conversation on how we can work to save it and how your group is working to try and save it, which is absolutely awesome. So since you both serve as fire commissioners in your communities, what do you see as your number one obligation to the taxpayers and the citizens that you serve in your community? We'll start with you, Rob.
Sure. Well, we're tasked from the taxpayers, from the constituents of our communities. We're tasked with providing fire protection for the residents of our communities and essentially the residents of New York State. So the most important task that we have is to make sure that we have the members, qualified members, that could respond in an emergency to the taxpayers of New York State. So that's our biggest issue. That's our biggest obstacle, is to make sure that we can continue to have firefighters in the front seat responding on calls.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's really great to see. So I remember when I first got involved in volunteering, and I saw a completely different world, a completely different perspective. I saw people that were doing amazing things for their community. I've always said that volunteering for your community is the most selfless thing that you can do. And it shows the admiration and respect that you have for the area that you live in. And that's a very important thing, I would say, is volunteering in the area that you live in. Because if you strain your district by going to another agency outside of your community, then that community is going to need more help from the other. So Bill, we'll go to you. What do you think would be a good solution to trying to fix that issue as far as people going to volunteer in other communities?
Well, I got elected to the board in 1978. I'm going to say around 1990, we were having a tough time with our ambulances getting out. When we can't even help our own members, we had to do something. We hired 4 3-man crews to man it 24/7. Our job as commissioners is to protect lives, no matter what it costs, no matter whether people's feelings get hurt, no matter whether they have cliques. It's our job, the 5 people that elect on that board, to protect the residents that are giving us their tax money.
Absolutely. And so I originally volunteered for Mastic Beach Ambulance. Mastic Beach Ambulance had commissioners. They ended up, I don't know if they ended up getting voted out or what it ended up being. They passed a new bylaw that essentially got rid of the commissioners. But I feel that commissioners are a great thing for fire and EMS districts. I think that it's really good that the fire districts all have commissioners that oversee the operations and everything like that. So tell me a little bit more about for people who don't know, what a fire commissioner does.
A fire commissioner is tasked. Essentially a fire commissioner is a division of local and state government. So a fire commissioner is tasked with providing the services to their constituents. They're elected by the taxpayers in their communities to provide fire protection, EMS protection. So essentially what they do is they develop a budget, and the budget is surrounding first responders. It's surrounding having fire trucks respond to the scene, having ambulance respond to the scene. They develop a budget as part of the residents' tax base, and that's what they're supposed to do, is provide the fire protection. So essentially a fire commissioner oversees the emergency response within their community, and they operate as a division of local and state government.
Very nice. Yeah, that definitely clears up some stuff for people who don't know what commissioners are, because I know some districts don't have commissioners and they're not too familiar with what exactly commissioners do.
Absolutely.
And it's a very, very important role, I would say. So I understand that you guys have a group, and your group has been very successful in working with our elected representatives, both in Washington, D.C. and upstate New York, in Albany. So you guys addressed the issues with the fire and EMS service, like the proposed 1910 fire brigade standards and the recent EMTCC sunsetting, which I have to say, to me, the CC is very disappointing that they're trying to sunset it, because I would have taken that course. I don't have the time right now to take a paramedic course, and I feel that them stripping the CC was definitely a big blow to EMS, and especially to volunteers, because volunteers had time because you didn't need as much schooling to become a CC, and you were also an advanced level of care. But now they just have the paramedic and the AEMT. The AEMT is kind of restricted as compared to an EMT CC. So how important would you say is it getting to our elected officials and getting them informed and on board?
It's extremely important. So the group that you're referring to that we formed it's a coalition. Earlier on, back in December, we recognized the fact that we're having a recruitment issue. The recruitment issue didn't start in December. It started 2-3 years prior to that, and even 4 or 5 years prior to that. The numbers have been decreasing straight across New York State, from 120,000 down to 80,000, 120 being about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, down to 80,000 is a substantial decrease. We've been seeing a substantial decrease. So back in December, we said, listen, we need to form a coalition here of stakeholders. Stakeholders are individuals that, for example, that you just mentioned, fire commissioners, chiefs, coordinators, Long Island, Nassau, and Suffolk Ledge, individuals who have a stake in the game, and individuals who have been tasked with providing fire protection for the residents of New York State. We formed this coalition made up of the New York State Fire Commissioners, that's what I'm a part of, the New York State Fire Chiefs, the New York State Fire Coordinators, and the Long Island, Nassau, Suffolk Legislation Committee. Individuals who actually are responsible for providing the fire protection for their communities. We formed a coalition. We said, you know what? We got to think of new and innovative ways to try to increase recruitment, retention, to try to keep the younger and even the older individual, the married couple, the couple who has kids who are going back and forth to games and don't have time to volunteer or who have 2 jobs. We need to come up with innovative ways to try to retain that person. And one of the things we did, TJ, was we went out not across just New York State, but we went across the United States, and we tried to find examples of fire departments that were operating in different states that are having the same issue. Because this is not just it's a New York State issue, right, but volunteers straight across the United States are decreasing as well. So we looked at different models, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Florida, and we tried to look at a model that will check all the boxes. And when I say check all the boxes, to your point before, it's very tasking to be a volunteer with all the training, with working 2 jobs. So checking the boxes is is keying up on individuals that are 25 to 60. That 25-year-old that's working 2 jobs, maybe, and there's nothing wrong with working at a McDonald's or a Burger King. Maybe he's working at a McDonald's and trying to, retain some money for books for college or for car insurance or for a car loan. If I can substitute that second job with something, with compensating, I will. I can. And now I retain that volunteer firefighter. Same thing holds true with a husband or a wife who's working 2 jobs. And now, if I can substitute that second job with something, I would. So the program is called Nominal Compensation. Nominal compensation is defined in the title of it. Nominal compensation, depending on how you want to compensate that individual. It would be irresponsible for me to tell even Billy how to run his budget. He's a commissioner in his fire district. I'm a commissioner in my fire district. So what we're saying is we're going out, and you referred to, we went to the lawmakers. We're going out and we're trying to change the law to allow us, the stakeholders, to nominally compensate an individual coming down to the firehouse and either standing by or going on calls or whatever we feel is justifiable, however we want to compensate them, because we're the authority having jurisdiction. The best person to do that would be the person who sets the budget, and that's the commissioner for that separate fire district, not me. So it's a very unique way of approaching nominal compensation. You can't. It would be impossible to put together a program that's going to work for every fire district. We're talking about across New York State. Earlier on, I mentioned the coalition. The coalition is the group of individuals, all who I've mentioned, straight across New York State, from Buffalo to Suffolk County to central New York State. Each fire district is different. Could you imagine if I put together a program for somebody in Buffalo? I have no idea.
Yeah, they would be like, why are you doing this for me?
Exactly. You don't know, really? It's how irresponsible would that be? So I say, okay, let's change the law and let the commissioner in Buffalo put together their own program that's going to work for their community. So nominal compensation is an approach that we're taking to retain the firefighter to come down and respond on calls, but we need the help of the legislators to do that. We need them to change the law to allow us to do it. Very much like they changed the law in New Jersey, they changed the law in Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and I can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
We're just playing catch up.
I'm not too familiar with the correlation between LoSAP and nominal compensation. I know that you can't get in New York State right now, correct me if I'm wrong, nominal compensation if you get LoSAP.
No.
Perfect.
Okay.
And
yes.
that's why we have 2 wonderful ladies from Long Island. Miguel Salages from Elmont, she's our assemblywoman, and Monica Martinez from Brentwood, she's the Senate person who is introducing their bills that we are allowed to do this. Because at the moment, we cannot pay you with the LoSAP. It's like Ralph said, there's 1,770 fire departments in the state of New York, 109 in Suffolk, and 28 ambulance companies in Suffolk. I have 3 people out of my fire district that just got married, stayed in the district. Their mortgage is $5,000 a month. How can they make these calls when he's working 2 jobs? She's watching the kids. She has to. And all we're asking our state legislators is to give us this tool for the toolbox that if I wanted to use it in my fire district, I can. Would we penalize Ralph if he didn't want to? No, it'd be up to him. It's home rule. If you wanted to do this, let's have the authority that we can do this. And that's what we're trying to do. We're coming back to the same thing. Our job is to protect lives. And that's what we're trying to do. I'm not knocking any fire department. It takes us right now almost 12 minutes to get to a job. If we had these ladies and gentlemen standing by, we could probably be at that house in 5 minutes and contain it to a room. If it takes 12 minutes to get there, the house is fully involved. So this really is a simple procedure. Just give us the authority to where we could use this tool if we'd like to make sure that our residents are safe.
Absolutely. And I do have to say, so you guys went to different states and you saw different programs in regards to nominal compensation. So what are some examples that you've seen that other agencies use and departments have used?
Sure. New Jersey has a really, really innovative way of approaching nominal compensation. And to Billy's point earlier, to a tool in the toolbox, it's very important to know that this is an optional tool. And listen, we understand there are fire districts out there, because who would fund this? The fire commissioners would fund this. So there are fire districts that cannot afford within their budget to fund it. They don't have to participate in it. But there are fire districts that can afford and would like to participate in it. And that's where we want to give them the option. The New Jersey Fire Department that I'm going to cite an example, they have a very innovative way of looking at it. They took their statistics and saw where it was, they had the deficiency of trying to get a truck out or an ambulance out, and they created a shift, a 6-hour shift. They say, okay, they grab about 5 guys. They say, okay, guys and girls, we're going to create this shift, 6 hours. We need volunteer. We need people to man this shift. We'll give you $75 a person per shift. And they give them $75. Now, you $75 might not be a lot of money, but if you do it 3 times a week, a couple $100, right?
It's more than what anybody's getting right now.
That's what I'm saying. A couple $100. Now to somebody who has a second job, a couple of $100 makes up for that second job. Now they don't have to work that second job. They can volunteer the time to be a shift work at the firehouse. So that's the way the New Jersey one, we asked for an example. The New Jersey one works that way. The New Jersey Fire Department that I'm citing the example works that way. Who funds it? The commissioners. How do they fund it? As I said earlier, the commissioner's job is to maintain and develop a budget. So he does it within him or her do it within the parameters of their budget. Who? The authority having jurisdiction. It all goes back to that's the person who's qualified that could do it. Not me, not Ralph Raymond, not Billy Theis. The person who's responsible is the commissioner, the authority having jurisdiction. So they develop the program that's going to fit in their envelope. And that's what this is all about. Now, again, it's an optional program and it costs the state absolutely nothing. There's nothing. Doesn't cost.
We'll emphasize that. It costs the state nothing.
Zero. It costs the state nothing to allow us to do this. But to Billy's point before with the LoSAP and the VFBL component, by law, we can't do it. So we need that law change.
And I don't want to sit here and let all your viewers think everybody's on for this with the fire service. We have a lot of people that don't want to move forward. They're living in the past. All we're asking is that to give us a chance, like Ralph and I are saying, let each district make their own decision if they want. This is not one model for all, but we need everybody that's in authority to realize we are helping you in the future to make sure we don't lose the volunteer service. Because I'm going to be honest with you, if the state took it over, it would be $4.5 billion a year to maintain what all of us love for the last over 200 years. So like I say, all the naysayers out there, rethink what you're talking about. It will cost the state nothing, and it will keep the volunteer flourished and blooming for years. And the bottom line, not to be redundant, we're in this business to protect lives.
Absolutely. And I have to say, between the 3 of us, you guys have been doing this much longer than I have. This is something we're very passionate about. This is something that we love. Volunteering is something that I have loved since I was very young. I started doing this when I was 11 in the youth squad at Mastic Beach. And I've been hooked ever since. And I had a feeling that it would change my life. And I've seen a lot of people that have started volunteering, that it's changed their lives. People at South Country that I volunteer with every single day. They say how volunteering has saved them from sometimes some pretty rough situations. It gets them out of a rough home life, just in general. It's just a very selfless thing that you could do for your community, and it's something you love. You're helping the people you know.
And can I add to something, TJ,
Absolutely.
to your point? I mean, to Billy's point too. I mean, listen, not everybody agrees on everything, and that's okay. It's okay that people don't agree. That's all right. But as Billy is saying, this is an optional tool. To your point about volunteering, what we need to get is the message out there even more. It's not just volunteering. Listen, you get the self-gratification for helping your community. When you volunteer, even in your agency, my agency, Billy's agency, it's a network of individuals from carpenters to plumbers to professional attorneys to doctors to lawyers. There is a network of individuals that you're able to network with free of charge, and you create a family and brotherhood and sisterhood among this network that takes you to a whole different level in life. You know what I mean? What it also does too, and to attract the younger volunteers, what a lot of the younger volunteers don't realize is that the training that they're required to take to be a volunteer firefighter, depending on what courses they take, count towards college credits. So, TJ, just like we all know, it's very expensive to pay for college. So now you're volunteering to help your community. You're taking required courses to be a volunteer firefighter, and you're getting continuing education credits and for doing that. I mean, come on, it's a win-win.
Yep, it is. And like you said, a lot of people living in the past, and it's unfortunate. I wish that I've heard some people too, because I was talking throughout this week, because I was excited to have you two on, and I was talking to people about it throughout this entire week, and I was like, nominal compensation. I was trying to learn more about it and get more familiar with it. People were like, well, if we're volunteering, then, why would we need to be compensated? I'm like, you don't understand. Look at our economy right now. Look at right now with the war. We know this is temporary, but look at gas prices. It's almost $4 a gallon. Think about this. People could be getting compensated for being a volunteer, and this can help them with their finances and allow them to stay in the industry. There are people that are in the industry currently that I've seen leave because they can't financially do the 10 hours a week. They'd rather be getting paid for it.
And to Ralph's point, I'd rather have a fireman making $10 an hour, knowing that he's there, and it'll help him maybe not have to do that McDonald's job. And he's here helping his residents and the taxpayers. I just don't understand people's argument with this, because it is just unbelievable to redo this so we could take care of our firefighters and our residents. We can't please everybody, but the majority of them like what we're doing. And we're hoping that the state legislators push this through and our governor signs it. Our governor, the number one thing that we've done our own poll, 95% of the New Yorkers want public safety in this state. And this is what we give them. We'll give them with this new law that's going through.
Absolutely. And you know what I have to say? And luckily for me, somehow I was able to see it firsthand. I was up there with you guys. I believe it was, I think a year ago today,
yes,
actually. It was a year ago. We went up and we were lobbying, and we went to Monica Martinez's office, and we also were with the governor at one point. I forget what part that was for. That was at the, it was like a dinner, right?
Ambulance cost recovery, I think.
Yes,
that was it.
We had like a thing at the greenhouse.
Yes, the greenhouse.
Fort Orange, yeah.
Yeah, Fort Orange. Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that. Wow, that was a really nice place. I like that building. But that was a great time, and it gave me also. I'm very grateful that Chief Maglino gave me the opportunity to go see how this is done, see how the lobbying is done, see how we speak to our elected officials to try and get them on board. And I have to say, luckily in New York State, we have a lot of elected officials that support our first response
Well, look
system.
at your boss. Look at the way he's done South Country Ambulance. I mean, we're in a military atmosphere, even with the firefighters, but he has brought this South Country. There's no better in this state. Talk about the CC. He fought tooth and nail with that to keep that going. He is what we call a leader to protect our volunteer service.
Absolutely. And that The CC being taken away was one of the largest blows to volunteer EMS. It was the largest blow. Talk about retention of volunteers and ALS providers. I don't know too much about who initiated that sunsetting, but whoever did that honestly really screwed the volunteer EMS system very badly.
Yeah, and that's another deterrent from being a volunteer firefighter. And that's what we're trying to do, is take away those deterrents, and the training and the time and everything else, and the nominal compensation just as a component that helps. You got to remember, volunteer fire departments throughout New York State are the cornerstone of your community. It's not only, they don't only provide fire and EMS protection to the residents of New York State. They're the individuals that are there for the school fire prevention talks, the Little League parades, the football parades, all the open house fire prevention, education to all the students within their communities. They're the cornerstone of your community. They're fire departments, volunteer fire departments, for hundreds of years have been the cornerstone of a community. We're just looking to keep that tradition going, and at the same time, keep public safety at its highest levels. Let me make one thing clear. Fire departments are going to continue to respond to calls. What we're doing is preventing an issue from really becoming a problem. And when I talk about that, I mean, last year alone, there were 6 fire departments that closed down across New York State because of lack of membership, and one close by, Floral Park Center, right over here on Long Island. We don't want to react when there's 12 fire departments that close down. We want to react now. Currently, right now, TJ, to just to talk real quick about membership. Right now, the trucks are going to continue to come out. The trucks are going to continue to go to respond to fires across Long Island. Truck companies have been coming out, but we're utilizing a lot more companies. So now you would have one fire department able to handle one house fire. You have 2 fire departments able to now looking, to take care of the house fire, because the guys on the trucks now are 3 guys instead of 5 guys. So we're stressing our individuals as well. So before this becomes a real critical emergency, we need to address nominal compensation is one component. We need to address recruitment, retention. We need to continue to have our members come down to the firehouse and continue to provide public safety before it becomes a major, major issue. And that's where the legislators, the assembly folks, the senators, they have to listen to us. They have to say, these are the guys that are making the decisions. We need to give them every tool in the toolbox in order to keep public safety up.
Absolutely. And Monica Martinez, I know, is a great asset for you guys. And also Senator Dean Murray, Assemblyman Joe DiStefano. He's great too.
Joe is right there for us. They really, I have to say, when it comes to the fire departments and the ambulance responders, all our elected officials are right there doing whatever they can.
It's amazing. It's great. And
with your audience, I just want,
absolutely.
I want them to realize one thing, like Ralph said, it costs the state nothing. We will not be increasing anything. We've told the state we do not need your money. We will handle this ourselves. There's groups out there that said they need $10 million to do this program. We don't need anything. We'll leave it up to each individual district.
Those are the haters. Those are the people that don't want it.
Right. And listen, to Billy's point, and that's important, we're leaving it up to every district. TJ, the real cool thing about this is we talk about, and revert back to the coalition. The coalition it consisted of individuals and agencies across New York State, as I mentioned to you earlier. So what works on Long Island necessarily won't work upstate New York. So when we say we're leaving it up to the jurisdiction, we have done our due diligence. There are some departments upstate that maybe want to nominal compensation. Maybe they want to do gas cards. Maybe they want to do $5 an hour. Maybe they want to do $10 an hour. Maybe they want to do reimbursement for cleaning. But you see how diverse this is? That's why when we touch on, it's not just one size fits all. We've done our due diligence. We've surveyed different fire departments throughout New York State. Each one of them have a different need. They say, hey, my guys will come down for $5 an hour. That's cool. If it works up there, it works up there.
Yeah.
They say, right? They say, my guys will come down if they get reimbursed for something. That's all right. If it works up there, it works up there. Might not work for me, might not work for Billy, but this is why one size doesn't fit all. This is why we need the authority having jurisdiction to make that decision. They're the best educated person to make the decision, not me, not Billy, not TJ. The guy who's a stakeholder, he needs to make that decision.
I have to say, being in the fire service 50 years, I've never seen a task force and a coalition of associations sticking together. This is the number one thing on their plate this year before the session ends in June. We must get this. There's a fire department upstate. Their budget's $200,000. They're looking to hire 2 people to man that truck. And they know how bad it is to get the trucks out in a reasonable time.
Yeah, especially during the day. I noticed we have obviously more volunteers come out at night because, everybody's off of work, but the day is probably the worst when you get a structure fire.
We had that school fire, I'm going to say, in Nassau County somewhere about 3 weeks ago. It was Syosset. It was 4:30 in the morning, rip roaring. If that was at 9 o'clock and everybody's going to work, I think at that moment it was taking, they said 16 companies. I don't really know much about the Nassau County, how they run it. If they're meaning 16 departments, that's a lot of departments going there. So if we had that standby crew, you'd have 3 crews already right there within 5 minutes putting that fire out. Right,
which obviously would decrease the spread of the fire, which we talked about earlier.
We got to realize one thing. When Liz Smith did that article 20 years ago in Newsday, the one thing I did tell her, I cannot tell you who's coming down to the firehouse, whether somebody has a party, whether somebody's working, whether somebody's on vacation. I cannot tell you who's coming. If this nominal compensation goes through, I can guarantee you 5 people that are coming to your house within 3 minutes.
Absolutely. This program, now that I've learned more about it, and you guys have really enlightened me to this, is something that now is just extremely essential for our volunteers on the island. Extremely essential for retention, for peace of mind when it comes to your finances, everything. Because like I said, I see families come in that want to volunteer. I see husbands and wives that have kids at home and they need a babysitter. Like maybe that'll cover the cost of their babysitting while they're volunteering. It's just, this is an amazing program, and I really pray that it gets passed. It has to happen to save our volunteers. And if anybody is going to be saving volunteerism on Long Island and in New York State, it's you guys and your group.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. We're going to continue to work hard to maintain the volunteerism across New York State.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And thank you for having us.
Yeah, of course. So I have one last closing out question for you guys. So the volunteer fire service is older than our nation. In many communities for all those years, it has been a center point of for our citizens. How important do you see maintaining that sense of community through volunteering as we move forward as a nation?
I think it's the number one thing, like Ralph said before. When you lived years ago in the town, the firehouse was the number one spot. Everybody went to whatever they had to do. We need volunteerism. And like you said before, how it makes you proud. It makes me so proud when I have that uniform on walking down Main Street for the 4th of July parade and everybody's applauding for us. There's nothing better than volunteering to help you. And it's neighbors helping neighbors.
Absolutely.
Well, cornerstone of the community, as I said earlier, it's one of the components to educate our youth through fire prevention awareness. We're there to support the community through Little League parades, soccer parades, football parades. We stand by at football games. We provide EMS protection at football games. We're there for everything in the community to maintain, as far as a community sense as I said, the fire department is your cornerstone of your community, and we need to maintain it. In addition to providing response, EMS and fire response to the residents, it's equally important to maintain your community pride.
Absolutely. And if you are watching this right now and you are a volunteer, understand nominal compensation is extremely vital and important to retain our volunteers. This is an essential thing that we need to retain everybody that we can so we don't lose volunteerism on Long Island and in New York State. And like I said, anybody's going to do it, it's you guys and your team.
Thank you very much.
And it's fantastic.
Thank
and it
you.
was so great having you two on today.
It was great. Thank you.
Yeah, such an honor. And keep on doing what you guys are doing in any way that I can help or any way that anybody can help. And anybody who's watching, we're in. We're in for it. The greatest nation on earth, America. We have the most amazing people that put their faith and this nation above all. The American Frontline Podcast has special guests such as our military, first responders, and local elected officials to speak about how they continue to support the nation we all love and live in. Welcome to the American Frontline Podcast with TJ Falah, proudly sponsored by FireNews.com.